So, good afternoon and welcome everyone to this very special occasion, one where we will see a great New Zealander honoured in a really unique way. My name is David King and I am Ryman Healthcare's Head of Corporate Affairs. Gordy McLeod, my boss, was meant to be here today, but he has the flu, so I've been pretending to be Gordy all week. He said to me, I texted him and said, "Can you do it?" And he said, "Dave, I'm toast." So that's not an official diagnosis, but he is not well. It is not a man flu, he told me. His wife is a GP, but she's diagnosed man flu, I think. So I'd like to acknowledge and introduce our special guests here today with us. First, probably needs no introduction to those of you who were here right at the beginning, but it's Jan McLaren. Jan is from the Bruce McLaren Trust, and she's made it her quest over many years to honour the legacy of her brother Bruce. Jan officially opened the village for us in December 2014 and has always been a great supporter of this village. And I'd also like to introduce you to Craig Primrose, who is renowned for his beautiful portraits of many New Zealand icons and whose latest artwork it is that brings us here today. Before I invite Jan and Craig to say a few words, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about why we're here. So, about 5 years ago, I think we approached Jan and said we were building in Howick and we would like to name the village after Bruce. It was a huge honour for us to be able to name it after Bruce. It's not only a great New Zealand name in New Zealand motorsport, but also in the history of motorsport internationally. McLaren cars and the McLaren team obviously are so well known and so successful for over very many years. For us to appreciate the global impact that Bruce had on motorsport, we can think of it as similar to what Sir Peter Blake and Team Black Magic did for New Zealand yachting. The path to Bruce's incredible career as a race designer, driver, engineer and inventor was set during his typically Kiwi upbringing down the road in Remuera, where his mum and dad, Les and Ruth, owned a service station. I feel a little bit underqualified to tell this story because Jan knows it better than me, but I will nevertheless. In his spare time, Jan and Bruce's dad, Les, was a keen motor racing enthusiast. He raced clubs at car level. He instilled in Bruce a passion, and Bruce spent all his time hanging around the workshop. Bruce had to overcome the challenges of Perthes disease, which meant he had one leg slightly shorter than the other, and he spent 2 whole years in the Wilson Home for Children, much of it in traction. When everyone looks back, I think they, and Jan will talk about this, it is probably what fired him up, his massive determination, and he was always raring to make up for the time he'd lost. By the age of 14, he had a taste of success from racing his Austin 7, and from then on, Bruce quickly rose through the driving ranks, all the time modifying and improving his vehicles. In 1958, his potential had been noticed, and Bruce was sponsored to go to Europe by the New Zealand Grand Prix Association. He won a driving spot for Cooper alongside the amazing Jack Brabham. In 1959, he became the youngest driver to win a Formula One race when he won the US Grand Prix, and it was a record he held for 43 years. In 1963, he decided to strike out on his own, and he formed the Bruce McLaren racing team. This is when all of Bruce's talents combined, laying the foundation for what became one of the most successful teams in Formula One championship history and one of the world's best car manufacturers. And anyone who's seen the film McLaren will know he wasn't just a driver, he was so much more. He was an amazing engineer, an incredibly clever man. So Bruce was joined by fellow Kiwis Denny Holm and Chris Amon, and they played a big part in developing his very successful legacy. A highlight for the team came in 1966 when Bruce and Chris Amon won the prestigious 24-hour race at Le Mans. It wasn't just in Formula One that the McLaren design and ingenuity really stood out. During the 60s, the McLaren team achieved an incredible run of success in the popular Can-Am Sports Cars series, winning 5 out of 6 races in 1967 and 4 out of 6 in 1968 and all in 11 in 1969. Bruce was behind the wheel for many of these wins. And Can-Am is an American race or an American formula, and Elvis Presley drove a McLaren, so there you go. Tragically, Bruce was just 32 in June 1970 when the Can-Am car he was testing crashed at high speed and he was killed instantly. The words he wrote following the 1964 death of his McLaren teammate Timmy Mayer became a sentiment repeated by those who mourned him 6 years later. And Bruce said, "To do something well is so worthwhile that to die trying to do it better cannot be foolhardy. It would be a waste of life to do nothing with one's ability, for I feel that life is measured in achievement and not in years alone." Bruce was one of the most loved and respected people in motor racing history, and he left a tremendous legacy. To take on the international heavyweights of motorsport was a truly remarkable achievement, which is reflected in the fact his name is still used today. It is only natural that Jan would be spurred on to honour such a remarkable New Zealander who achieved so much in such a short time. So those of you who saw the film of his life, endorsed by the McLaren family, we were lucky enough to see it in Christchurch at the premiere. It's a fantastic tribute to him, and I hope some of you have seen it. I think some events were organised. So the idea was born to further honour Bruce's memory in the form of an oil painting, and that came about through a fortunate connection, and that is why we're here today. Ryman co-founder and board member Kevin Hickman is a friend of the artist Craig Primrose. Craig's completed numerous portraits reflecting famous New Zealanders during his lengthy career. Another Ryman village namesake, Sir Edmund Hillary, actually appointed Craig as his preferred artist, and in another coincidence, Edmund Hillary is actually the village that both of Craig's parents retired to. Craig was telling me before he's also painted Elton John, and you can imagine he's a pretty picky customer, so well done, Craig. Over the past 30 to 40 years, Craig has become known as one of New Zealand's leading contemporary artists who has also achieved sell-out exhibitions in New York and Silverstone. He was awarded the Queen's Service Medal for his contribution to art in 2010. Craig is also a massive sports fan and has portrayed some of the world's greatest sports teams and superstars. These include America's Cup yachtsmen, tennis, rugby, and of course motorsport stars, and Formula One with Ferrari, Jaguar and McLaren all featured in his paintings. He's been heavily involved in the motor industry and has had a long association with Jan and the Bruce McLaren team. The Bruce McLaren Trust. So Kevin and Craig discussed the idea of bringing to life the namesakes of each of our villages in the Ryman Group, and from that a mission was born. Now I should explain a little bit about Kevin Hickman. So the name Ryman comes from a combination of John Ryder and Kevin Hickman. So Ryder and Hickman became Ryman, and Kevin's still a director. So when he thinks something's a good idea, we all think it's a good idea as well. So over the next, and I think it's going to be quite a few years, Craig is going to paint every one of our village namesakes. And we have 31, and we're trying to open at least 2 a year. So it's a little bit of a runway of work ahead for him. We've also learnt that Kevin held latent ambitions to work for McLaren in his early years, and that was what influenced him to get Craig to complete Bruce's portrait first. In the late 60s and 70s, it was a proven path for New Zealanders who went on their overseas experience to go to England and work for Bruce. So our villages, I've come across about 3 or 4 residents now who actually work for Bruce and the team. So it's quite fitting too that we unveil the first of these portraits in the month that Bruce would have turned 80. Craig's preferred method of painting is oil on linen stretched over teak, a method that's proven to last, and therefore these paintings will have a legacy in all of our village for many generations to come. So we're looking forward to seeing it in a minute, in all its glory, and all the other portraits that Craig will create. So I would now like to call on Jan to come forward and say a few words.
Well, what a turnout. It's fabulous to see so many people here, and lovely to meet people that I've met before and renew the friendships and hear new stories. And somebody at the front today, I said that they'd seen a lovely portrait of Jack Brabham, who of course was Bruce's mentor, and just there's always a lovely story, another piece in the jigsaw, and that's so important to us. And we've got other people here that I've known from the motorsport area for a long time, and we've got one here, Graham Rhodes, who's just recently moved in, and I know him from motorsport, and his son David, who's here sitting in the front row as well, is our admin volunteer, and he's been for ages. So these circles of motorsport and old friends and the Remuera era just keep coming all the time. It's those stories that are wonderful. So the McLaren documentary just lately has been one. How many of you have actually seen that story already? Wonderful, wonderful. It's been a privilege for us to work with the likes of Roger Donaldson. He is an amazing man and just so easy to work with, and draws out the stories that are all so important to everybody with family. And it's the emotion that was drawn out by some of those grown men, in tears still so long after Bruce has left us, is absolutely amazing, and it just shows what they thought of and felt. And as David said, we have often likened Bruce to Sir Peter Blake, because both of them were very humble people, and never, shall we say, did ask someone to do something that he wouldn't do himself. Bruce would work in the workshop until 12 o'clock at night, and the boys would be still working on the cars. And they'd be saying, go home, Bruce, go home, Bruce. You've got to drive tomorrow. We don't. So it's that sort of friendships that pull all these things together. And Craig and I have worked together for about 20 years, I think, isn't it, Craig? It's sort of right from our early days. The lovely montage you've got in the foyer area, that was Craig's first work with us, and it's been a favourite, and we're down to about the last 10, I think it is, and of course the documentary has really stirred up the interest in that. But it's very special. We're very privileged to work with Bruce's history and heritage, and it's lovely to work with the young people too. It's very easy in our era of age to remember a lot of the things that happened then, but it's the new generation coming through, and we've just now got ourselves a younger patron, because sadly Chris Amon has passed away, and we have always had 3 patrons, and Sir Colin de Bergtrap is one, and old Sir Tom Clark was another, and he was a very special person in Auckland history and motor racing history. But sadly Tom died some years ago, so we've just put into place a much younger one, and that's Greg Murphy. And so it's lovely to sort of come down to that level, and because we do focus with the youth, and so many of the grandchildren that sort of know more about motorsport than I do too. It's quite special. But anyway, without any further ado, Craig, are you going to come up and say a few words?
Thank you, everyone. It's when I first discussed this with Kevin Hickman almost 12 months ago, it was the, if you like, the egg of an idea that now has come to fruition. And for me, it's a great privilege and an honour for me to stand next to this painting, to my right and to my left having Jan McLaren, Bruce's sister, to help me unveil this painting. So I just hope that everyone here in the village will enjoy it. It speaks volumes of, I hope, volumes of Bruce's life, and I think David pretty well summed Bruce's life up very, very well. So I don't really need to repeat anything that's been said, other than I would have put Bruce right next to Sir Peter Blake, who I knew and who I've met, and I've painted his portrait. And I put him right next to Stephen Hillary as well. Unfortunately, I didn't get to meet Bruce. I wish I had, but knowing Jan, there's a little bit now that I know. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Craig. So this is it, folks, the big moment, if I can call Jan up. When I said to Craig, would you like to say a few words, he said, actually I'd like the painting to speak for itself. So we're at that point now. So are you ready?
Yeah.
Isn't it beautiful? Now we've just got to work out where we're going to put it. I'm sure there'll be a few offers. So that is stunning. So thank you very much. So I just wanted to, we're going to have a few refreshments in a minute, and you can talk to Craig and Jan, but just before we conclude, I'd like to thank you. You might have noticed there's a bit of art out in the driveway as well, which is a McLaren, I think it's a Formula One car from 1970. It's a 5-litre small block Chevy, in case you're interested. It belongs to a very kind man called Dave Mitchell, and I'm really hoping he will start it up in a minute. Because I think it's going to sound great. So thank you, Dave. Thanks also to Frank and Maggie Carl, to Jens and Elaine Fogelberg, to Tony Roberts, to David Rose, all the people from the Bruce McLaren Trust who do so much work to honour the legacy. The biggest, well, the two other small thank yous at the end, and they're probably the biggest thank yous of all. Thank you to Warren and to all the staff at this beautiful village for putting on a great spread this afternoon. I love coming here, and it's all about, it's a beautiful village, but it's the beautiful kindness of the staff that really make the village. And finally, it is, and finally, thank you to all the residents. This is your home, it's a beautiful home, and it's your community spirit that make it a great place to visit as well. So thank you very much. So we will have a cup of tea or something stronger.